Hello everybody, welcome to Monday's edition of the Pritchard Cycling News Show. Big statement right now. This weekend's racing was the greatest weekend of racing we have ever seen, period. Changed my mind. It literally had everything. Not only did we have Paris-Nice finishing up, we had Tirreno Adriatico, we had a lot of controversial talking points within Paris-Nice. It just had everything. It just had absolutely everything this weekend, and we're going to get into the racing news shortly. We'll talk about all the fallout from Paris-Nice, what happened over in Tirreno Adriatico. But first up, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you know when we go live with our videos. And let's get into the news. And first up, this story that we covered on Friday, I think it broke on Friday. It was Dr. Freeman was found guilty of ordering tested gel testosterone to be administered to a British cycling athlete. We don't know who. But he was found guilty of it. And now there's talk that Dave Brailsford should be stepping down from Team Ineos Grenadiers until a full investigation into exactly what went down into this is complete. So Ineos Grenadiers issued a statement on Friday that was, well, it wasn't on their website, it wasn't on their Twitter. I had to go to other news outlets to try and find it. But they said it is very clear from their report that Richard Freeman fell short of the ethical standards required of him as a doctor and acted dishonestly, throwing him under the bus. However, the team does not believe that any athlete ever used or sought to use tested gel, or any other performance-enhancing substance, So not only did Team Ineos Grenadiers make that statement, Dr. Richard Freeman, well, is he a doctor anymore? I don't know. Richard Freeman, he made a statement after, not being able to make a statement for months on end, always being too busy to make statements. He's finally been able to find some time to actually say something about it. And guess what? Yeah, you're right. You don't think he's done anything wrong. So while speaking to the Mail on Sunday newspaper, he said, "It's so disappointing, it's unbelievable." Well, it's not, is it? "I have never doped a rider in my life. I'm still to see any evidence of who the rider supposedly was. I accept that there are people who don't believe me because you're lying. They will say I lied, which you did, and change my story, which you did, and can't trust anything I say. I've admitted those." Like, sorry guys, I'd not read that bit. So he'd admitted those lies, so everything from then onwards, it's completely true. So maybe this guy didn't order it. Maybe it was for Shane Sutton's Willie after all. Piss off. So the reason I feel that Brailsford has to take a step down from Ineos Grenadiers while they investigate this is because he was the head honcho. He was at the top of the tree. He was the mastermind behind the marginal gains philosophy. But really, this marginal gains philosophy has been built on nothing more than, well, sand. I guess it's a perfect cover-up, you know. Distract everybody with this hand while this one does whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, this one's doing the illegal substances and this one, marginal gains. We've lowered his seat by a mil, taking it back. If he can look one way with one eye and one way with the other eye, he can actually go faster, marginal gains. No, I'm not having it. Not having it. Brailsford has to step down. It was his watch. It was on. It was his watch. He must have known about it. Dr. Freeman must have reported direct to him. And don't forget, Team Sky, British Cycling took this whole, like, no-holds-barred philosophy when it came to doping. They got rid of Sean Yates because he was implicated at some point, or there potentially might have been some sort of implication. Bobby Julich, he got pushed away from Team Sky. Anybody that had anything to do with any sort of doping rumour was pushed to one side and got rid of. Such was their stance on making sure that nobody doped. Now, they pushed the limits. They went right to the edge, but it looks like they went beyond the edge here. If Brailsford's philosophy is marginal gains, if he is so adamant that he's not going to have anybody to do with any sort of doping scandal in the team, how stupid can you be to allow somebody to bring in a substance that if anybody found out, even if it was a legitimate reason for that being there, it's going to cast aspersions all over the team, all over everything. It's ridiculous. It wouldn't have happened. He's too smart for that because, you know, Brailsford's seen as this highly intelligent man who can think outside the box, who pushes the limits of business, of human endeavour to create this team, and to to then let a couple of testosterone gels slip through the net. Not having it. Not having it. Not anymore. And what pisses me off even more, right, is the fact that he was found guilty. And instead of just coming out and saying, yeah, all right, I'm sorry, I did. That's exactly what I did, and this is the guy it was for. Or girl, guy. People can just sit back and go, well, you're saying I'm guilty, but I'm not. And they still think they're getting they're not guilty just because they're coming out and saying it. And just because Ineos Grenadiers aren't saying anything about it, just because Dave Brailsford's not saying anything about it, they're like, oh, well, it'll soon enough just go. But someone should be held accountable. He's obviously been held accountable, but yet he's still denying it. And then other people above him and around him who knew about it should also be held accountable, because this has tarnished everything. Everything. Now, I don't believe Chris Hoy, for instance, has ever doped. I don't believe anybody on that track team has ever doped. I think that track team was just way ahead of its time in terms of its philosophies in training, its ability to adapt, and its ability to push the limits with the equipment. I genuinely believe that. Naive as I might sound, I genuinely believe that. But when it comes to the road and what they would have had to have done with other teams that are not necessarily open about doping, but hey, if a rider dopes, hey, whatever. That was a nondescript European accent. I wasn't tarnishing any specific nation with that. But you know what I mean, though? Like, it's rife in road cycling. It's rife. But yet a team comes along with a few marginal gains and then they take off. And I'm not having it. I'm not having it anymore. Spoil it all for me. This is the biggest scandal since Lance Armstrong's failed drugs test that got brushed under the carpet. And what else has been brushed under the carpet then that we don't know about at Team Sky? Ineos Grenadiers, whatever you want to call it, British side. Fucking boils my blood. Boils my fucking piss. Anyway, leave your comments down below. What do you think about this? Should Brailsford be taking a hit? Should he be getting investigated? Should he be taking a step down from Ineos Grenadiers? And has it genuinely tarnished anything they'll ever achieve now until he goes? Like Geraint's Tour de France win. I know Geraint a tiny bit, and I can't think that a guy like that would do that. I just can't believe it. And I don't think he did. But again, that moment is now tarnished because of something that happened years and years and years ago. I mean, I love the sport to bits, I really do, but Mamma fucking mia, Mamma mia. Anyway, after all that, let's talk about some racing news. Paris-Roubaix, Tirreno Adriatico, it's coming at your faces in 3, 2, 1, hesh. So first up, let's talk about Paris-Nice on Saturday. Very controversial finish to stage number, was it 6? I think it was 6, I can't remember. Anyway, this stage here where Primož Roglic took the victory ahead of Gino Mader. And this is where Paris-Nice really kicked off, because a lot of people said that Primož was riding for GC. He should have allowed Gino Mader the victory. So straight away on this one, I'm going to fire that question out to you. What is your opinion on a rider who's about to take GC or has a very good chance of taking that GC victory if he stays in second place? What is your opinion of him taking that victory away from someone who probably needed that victory more than him? Like, that victory could have altered Gino Mader's season. It could have altered it could potentially alter the rest of his career. He's only had 1 or 2 victories in his life, so victories are hard to come by. And he'd done all the hard work. He deserved the victory, but should victories be gifted, knowing that this rider in Primož Roglic is going to go on to, well, it looked like he was going to go on to win the Paris-Nice, but what happened on the final stage, Chris? Well, great question, Chris. Roglic had 2 crashes. After the first crash, he did get back into the peloton. 45, 47, 47, 45, something like that. 47 kilometres out, Astana started to attack. They started to work. Everyone was in the group. All the main GC contenders were there, and Astana started to put the hammer down. Luis Leon Sanchez attacking the bunch and trying to really up the pace. Around 24k to go, all hell started to break loose for Jumbo-Visma. George Bennett looked like he was having problems. I couldn't work out if he was trying to get back to Primož Roglic. But then the camera picks up Roglic at the front of a split in the peloton, and he's chasing hard. Peloton's already up to speed. Peloton's already smashing it, and we later found out that obviously Primož Roglic not only crashed, but I don't know if it was the first crash or second crash where he actually dislocated his shoulder. But then you've got Bora Hansgrohe on the front, smashing it to absolute pieces. You've got Astana working with them, and all of a sudden they obviously get through on the radio that Primož Roglic is going backwards, is getting dropped. Now, again, back to you with the question, what should happen in this situation? It looked like the race was on. Obviously, it's hard to decipher exactly the moment he crashed to what was actually happening in the peloton, but it looked, for all intents and purposes, that the race was already on. Astana had already increased that pace, just under 50k to go. So the race was on, and it was just getting faster and faster and faster. And at that point, it looked like Bora Hansgrohe were trying to get Schachmann onto that podium. I don't think there was any intention to drop Primož Roglic after his crash, but once they realised that he was off the back, it's all fair, right? It's racing. Like Adam Blythe said yesterday, he said that Saturday was racing and Sunday was racing. Like no victory should be gifted. And again, I want your opinion on that. Should a victory be gifted? But if a rider's crashed through his lack of skill, essentially, in holding that bike up, should the peloton wait for him? And should it only be the man that's ever in yellow or the man that's in the overall GC lead? Again, that's totally open up for debate, because what we see now is much more aggressive racing than we kind of used to see in the past. And it takes the fun out of it. If you have a mechanical, it's slightly different, and I think there should be the ruling to bring you back. But again, a mechanical is all part of the race. Crashing into road furniture, it's all part of the race. And that's just the way it goes sometimes. And I think there should be less talk about this, and it should be just, we're racing from point A to point B. What happens in that time? A, don't matter. Because that could always essentially give someone who was never in with a chance of winning, a chance of winning. And they just handled their bike a bit better. They were just in the right position at the right time. Other people just had bad luck, and that's just the way it goes. Anyway, Primož ended up getting dropped. He ended up dropping all the way to 15th overall on GC. Max Schachmann took 2 Paris-Nices in a row. He'd do it for Bora Hansgrohe. Up at the front, Magnus Cort, he ended up taking the victory on the final stage. Christophe Laporte, after another second place on stage 6, took another, second place, as you can see. And Pierre Latour, he took 3rd place. Cracking results for both Cofidis and Team Total Direct Energie. But yeah, if you look at the overall general classification there, Schachmann took victory ahead of Vlasov, ahead of Vlasov's teammate Ion Izagirre, and Lucas Hamilton was in 4th for Bike Exchange. Tiesj Benoot in 5th. Boosh! Oi, let's move across to Italy now, and stages 4 and 5 of Tirreno Adriatico. Stage 4 was the Queen stage of Tirreno Adriatico. The GC contenders were rising to the top, and the main GC contender, the likely lad to take victory unless something happens in the time trial, is Tadej Pogačar. He ended up taking victory ahead of a charging Simon Yates, and then the rest of the climbers, 29 seconds behind was Higuita and Mikel Landa. Nairo Quintana was a further 2 seconds behind them on his own. João Almeida was a further 4 seconds behind him, and then down in 9th place you had the leader prior to this event, Wout van Aert, 45 seconds down, which, when you look at the calibre of riders in front of him, isn't that much at all. Wout van Aert, said it time and again, this man is absolutely sensational. Granted, he can't keep with the true out-and-out climbers on the big mountainous stages, but look how close he can get. He could potentially be a GC contender. I mean, I'm not stupid in thinking that, but you don't see him as a GC contender. You see him as a rider that can literally do it all. Do it all. Unbelievable effort. Anyway, so that put Pogačar in the overall leader's jersey. Wout van Aert in 2nd place, only 35 seconds down, and Higuita had moved up into 3rd place, same time as Wout van Aert, as they moved into stage 5. And whoa! Woohoo! What a stage. I tuned into this with about 10 kilometers to go. I had no idea what was happening. I saw Mathieu van der Poel and I thought, oh, it's been dropped. Turns out he'd not. He'd attacked from around 60k out. And why did he attack, you ask? Well, he said he was cold, but it did look grim, pretty dismal to be fair, so it wouldn't surprise me if someone like that decided just to go on the attack just to try and warm himself up. Anyway, beyond warming himself up, he managed to get away from the rest of the peloton. The guy soloed himself to victory. Tadej Pogačar was on his heels all the way through, and it essentially just became like a 3-up time trial. You had Mathieu van der Poel at the front, you had Tadej Pogačar in second place trying to chase him down, and then you had Wout van Aert trying to chase Pogačar down to try and limit the losses between him and Pogačar coming into that time trial. So what a race. I mean, as Van der Poel came across the line, he was spent. He was done. Oh, such a bold move, such an amazing move for him to perform. And if anybody was going to do it, it would have been Mathieu van der Poel. It's so exciting right now to be in this era of seeing these riders race against each other. You got the likes of Wout van Aert, Mathieu van der Poel, and they're competing against Tadej Pogačar, who you consider an out-and-out GC contender at the Tour de France. You know, you don't see him as one of these guys. You know, you'd think that all three do completely different things. Wout van Aert, Mathieu van der Poel, very similar in what they can do and achieve, but Tadej Pogačar, and yet they're all fighting together. They're all aggressively attacking each other. It is sensational to watch. So after stage 5 of Tirreno Adriatico, Pogačar still in the lead. He now has a lead of 1 minute 15 ahead of Wout van Aert. Michael Landa has dropped all the way down to 3 minutes. Egan Bernal has moved himself up into 4th. Wow, he's down in 11th. Only 3 minutes and 30 down. Again, it's all going to come down to that time trial. And if you look at it on paper, Wout van Aert, much better time trialist than the ones around him. Can he close down that gap of 1 minute 15 seconds? Who knows? Well, I guess we'll know when we report on the news, or we actually all watch it. Anyway, that's your news for today. 2 huge kind of topics really. The whole racing scene that went off over the weekend, and then you've got that talk of maybe Brailsford having to step down from Ineos Grenadiers. Leave your comments on everything we've spoke about. If there's something we haven't spoke about, leave your comments down below. Don't forget, as ever, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, hit that dislike button if you've disliked the video, but don't dislike the video just because we're talking about people who are knobheads, all right? Think of the content as a whole. Just because you don't like a subject doesn't mean you can hit that dislike button, all right? So really consider why you're hitting that dislike button. If it's me, it's totally acceptable, but you've got to leave your comments down below and say, the reason I dislike this video is because, and then leave them. I'm not going to get mad. It might provide good content for the next video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Speak soon. See you on the next one.